seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brian at Whisper Status 74. Welcome to the community. Welcome to the channel. If it's the first time you are seeing me, please consider liking and subscribing. We are real tech for real people. Today is the Sony X950H at the top in standard picture mode versus the Sony A9S Master Series OLED. It is the 4K flagship for Sony this year, LED, versus the only Master Series of 2020 for Sony. You're seeing the Spears and Munsil demo disc in the background. Special thank you to them and their hard work. And special thank you to Robert and Wendy Zahn of Value Electronics for supplying both the X950H and the Sony A9S Master Series OLED for extended review. What we're doing today is the Starfield test. This will show some blooming on the LED, but the idea is to see which stars show up and which do not for the LED versus the OLED Master Series. This is a very interesting test because you're going to see how the OLED will show the stars versus the LED. And you'll see how they show up, what happens first, which display shows them first. The A9S Master Series shows them brighter, meaning that it's brighter per star. There are more stars visible on the LED, but not by much. What is most interesting in these tests with OLEDs is the stars themselves appear brighter. Even though the 950H is brighter by far, being nearly 1200 nits. The camera is struggling to pick everything up. But in many ways, the OLED is showing, it seems like, the stars first. Now I've raised the camera so I'm more in line with the LED, so we're not off angle. It's a very hard test to show up on camera. But it seems like the stars on the OLED are visible first, and I think the reason that seems that way is they are brighter. You can see that they're actually timed perfectly. They're fading out at the same time. They're showing up at the same time, as a matter of fact. I know it's hard to tell by camera, but it's just that the brighter stars on the OLED, again, due to contrast ratio, they're not as bright, but they do appear that way. Well, they are brighter here, but just the processing, it seems like they're much brighter. But it's that contrast ratio at work. Get a little closer. This is the same test where, say, for instance, the TCL 8 series last year really struggled. It almost took longer to activate. And actually the TCL RX35, the algorithm kind of grabs this late. But what do you think? It seems like the brighter stars are on the OLED. Again, they're fading out at the perfect same time. Now, when we did the CX versus the AAH at Value Electronics. There were slightly more stars visible on the AAH than the CX, though the CX was brighter overall in that test. We'll redo that test with the CX. I have the 55-inch here, or we can just use the 77-inch. What's also amazing is how white the stars are on the OLED, though on typical screens, whites do suffer with OLEDs. But again, it's having the contrast between the blacks. It's hard to compete if you're an LED with, you know, the pixels just shutting off on an OLED. It's really hard to compete with that black level. But what I'm taking away mostly from this test is how they're gray on the LED. The treat of having them from the same family is they are both in the same mode, same colors, same picture mode being the same across the whole entire family. Now, the LED is handling the blooming well. You can see as it transitions off to the right or left, you can see the local dimming algorithm kind of at work, which is the best part about OLEDs, is just not having a backlight. You're not ever seeing that. It doesn't ever really pull you out. Now, if the LED did have a brighter specular highlight, at least in this test, you'd probably be able to make out more stars. But here in person, I'm not really seeing more stars on the LED, or really seeing them show up first. Maybe in that scene there's a bit more, but I'm not really seeing the black crush of OLED. And I think if you were to not say which was which, people would guess the OLED was on top. And on top is the X950H full array local dimming LED, and the bottom is the A9S Master Series. The advantage of the Master Series is it is calibrated out of the box. These are cool tests. Again, running this with the TCL, the R635 just didn't want to play nice. Didn't seem like it was really turning on, so I'll have to run that test again. So while it looks like, again, in the video, you may be seeing more stars on the OLED, it really is more stars on the LED. It's just they're not as bright, they're not as visible. But I wouldn't say you're really losing any that matter on the A9S. You see they're there on the LED, just a little bit slow in terms of the brightness picking them up. We will do this test with the LG CX versus the A9S Master Series. See how they compare. Again, you can purchase the Spears and Munsil demo disc in the description below and run these tests yourself on your own displays. And it's not really a demo disc, it's a calibration disc, but it's always cool to have something like this. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. The A9H was canceled this year. And we'd love to see another A9G. I'm not really wanting it at 8K. I'd like to see another 4K Master Series OLED. Test is nearly over. Now, what are your thoughts? Are you surprised that the OLED's specular highlights are brighter, or did you think that was going to be the case due to the contrast ratio? It's a pretty long test. But when you hear Black Crush every day when there's OLED videos, it's good to see how well they perform, at least modern OLEDs. That looks pretty amazing. I think we have one more round. All right, guys, we will sign off here. Thank you as always. Again, thank you to Value Electronics. Please check the description below for their information. It is a real treat to have these two amazing current displays here. I've had the A950H for about 6 months. If there's anything you want to see on these displays or content that's non-copyrighted, please let me know. Can't show movies, I can show games. If you want to see games versus each other, I will be sending these back. I don't want to keep them as long as I kept the 950H. All right, guys, thank you as always. Take care.